Like Alma said, we're going to talk about different iOS devices and accessibility, how AT's taken a big turn in providing accessibility for iPad, iPod, iPhone, all those iDevices. When I was at the ATIA conference 3 months ago, and I was amazed how much applications in regards to assistive technologies being created just for these devices. Almost half the sessions that they offered were all for iPad or iPod or iPhone devices. They're making a big push for making AT software available for these devices, mainly because it's versatile and you can do a lot more with this device. There's more flexibility and apps are a lot more cheaper to purchase for the consumers. And we're just going to show a few of the AT software that's available out there. There's a lot out there. We just have a handful that we can present. Price-wise, for consumers, it has come down significantly because of iPads and iPhones and all. Devices that cost $5,000 to $6,000, consumers are able to buy, pretty much the same utility for under $600 or $700 to get the same effect, but capable to do a lot more than what they're able to do in the past.
Yeah, sure. So we purchased several applications for the iPad, and the most expensive one was like under $200, so that's pretty good. But I'm going to just tell you which ones we have, and then if you want me to specifically go over one first to make sure we go over it, we can do that. Otherwise, I'll just tell you about them all. But we have Proloquo Go, which is a communication device. Pictello is also communication. Eyeglasses, it magnifies. TouchJack is a communication. DigiEyes is a scanner, so like it will scan UPC symbols and tell you what they are. We have Tap Speak Sequence, that's communication. Tasuk, is that how we say it? Tasuk? Tasuk. That's a schedule planner. We have Sound Amp R, which amplifies sounds. Tap to Talk is communication. Grace is communication. Sign for Me, sign language, and Scene Speak, which is communication. So are there any that anyone's interested in, or do you want me to just kind of show you what they are?
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Last week, we went with Story to two different agencies, fair agencies, and we kept talking about these iPads with her, and I was just thinking now that you're talking, is there a possibility that when we go to these fairs, can we take them and show them to the people? Because they showed so much interest. We have a lot of people, and I was wondering if we can take it when we go, just to show them how they, well, you would have to teach us.
As long as you check it out.
Okay, that's right.
And check it back.
You're welcome. And check it back.
Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah, if you check out, you have to check it.
Yeah. That's the requirement.
Thank you.
But you can definitely use it. Like that's how we have it, so that people can use it and like let everyone be able to try it out.
What does the sign language do?
You want to see sign language?
Yeah, I want to see sign language.
I'll show you. And are you all familiar with how the iPad works? So any questions about that? Okay. So
Don't you reboot it by?
no, I don't think that's how you do it.
That's the old one. Well, no.
Give out the marimba application kicks in.
That's when Microsoft tried to make the iPad.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the sign language one. And so what it is just a guy, he just stands there, he's a 3D guy. You can like move him around, you can like zoom in. Oh, that was way zoomed. So you can see his hands. You can position him in different places, like you can move him over here. You can see him from the bottom, from the top. So he's pretty cool. You can just move him around. And then you can also change how, if you want to sign really slow or sign faster. So if you want to learn signs specifically, you can slow them way down. And then you can also loop it, so it'll repeat it over and over again, so you can learn the signs.
How many signs are on it? Where's it?
I don't know how many, but
it's got a sign dictionary close to 7,000 words.
7,000.
Wow.
The one drawback to that application is if you type it in English word order, it will not convert it into ASL grammar.
Oh, yeah. So it'll teach you the signs, but it won't teach you the grammar. But like, right now he's saying, I'm learning sign language. That's what he's signing. And I put it on loop, so we'll just keep doing it until I tell him to stop.
Rob, how does it compare with other computer-based ASL dictionaries and stuff?
You know, it's really phenomenal. It really compares with a lot of the big sign dictionaries right now are all video of an individual signing individual words.
Right.
And this does a great job. Because it is animation, it does get a little choppy at times, but it really compares really well. And the nice thing is if you do know the ASL grammar and you type it in the ASL grammar, it will sign it in that grammar. You just have to type it in that order.
Cool.
And so, and it also has a history, so you can go back to like ones that you've already typed in. And it will ask you, like, if you type in a new thing, then it'll ask you, like, if I, let me see if it'll bring it up. Yeah, it says, which version of you do you mean? So you just have to choose, like, all of you. I want to know how all of you are doing. And then which version of going. So, like, it's using the grammar a little bit because you have to specify. But, yeah. So that's the sign language one. It's really fun.
What's the name of that again?
Sign for me. And that one is, let me see. That one's $10.
$10, huh?
Yeah.
That's a bargain.
I know.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
And you know, that's the biggest advantage is the cost for some of these apps. I'll show one app which I use. It's a money bill identifier. Most of the money bill identifiers out there, if you buy specific hardware, it's about $200, $300. And I got an app for 99 cents.
Oh, really? Wow.
And it does better than any of the money bill identifiers out of the market.
Huh.
So, you'll show some of the other ones.
Yeah.
You see, there it is.
Okay.
When I have an accent, I just do that, and people understand.
Proloquo.
There you go.
I'm going to show you Proloquo to go. And that one was our most expensive one. That one was $190.
And it's called what?
Proloquo to go.
What's that?
What does it do?
A communication device.
Oh, okay.
So what we'll do is, you start with different categories. So you kind of just have to get used to the categories. But you can choose whichever one you want.
Categories,
And then,
countries and flags,
well, that was not very good. Like,
feelings, mad,
so you can say like,
I feel, hurt,
or,
I feel, embarrassed.
Speaking of accent. That has nothing to do with it.
What does that
Waving that
So a question that I have is,
Yeah.
Will that also interface with alternate inputs, switching devices?
oh, switches?
Yeah.
I know there is devices you can buy where you can interface switches to it. I'm not really sure how much they cost, but I've seen
They're
them also.
available.
They are available.
Yeah, that's new. For a long time, it wasn't. You couldn't get alternate access to it, but that's a brand new thing it is now. Let's see.
Can you enlarge the icons?
Yes.
For the apps?
You can get it to do a display of only 4, and then if you go super large, it'll show 1 to 2 icons at a time.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can it interpret, like, okay, translate into Spanish and stuff like that?
We don't have any programs that do that.
Okay.
There is a universal translator application. They do have one.
Okay.
And they even can do that as well for text. If you're traveling and you see a sign, you can take a picture of it and it'll translate it on the fly.
Basics.
Yeah, yeah, translate what you see. Yeah.
I have a colleague I've worked with for a lot of years who is blind. And several times our friendship got really dicey because I was a Mac person and he was very negative about Macs and their accessibility and everything else. And,
Now he's a convert.
Now he's a convert, and you know, from his standpoint, it's just tremendously functional and useful. And inexpensive. I mean, that's what's incredible about it.
Yep.
So I'll show you something fun about this one. So I'm gonna be talking to you, you just respond, okay? If you can you all hear it? As loud as it goes, okay? So,
Jokes.
so.
Want to hear a joke?
Yeah.
Good.
Cow goes moo joke. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Cow goes.
Cow goes.
Cow goes who?
No silly. Cow does not go. Cow goes moo.
I met an individual who had an iPad mounted on, in front of his wheelchair, and he was using a long mouth stick and communicating that way. Just met him at the airport in DC. So a lot of people are using it significantly as a communication device in a lot of other ways.
So the interface will work with a stick, not just with a.
And you can also change like how you tap it. Like you can make it so that if you just hold it, then it will access it, or you have to tap it like that. So it's like some people can't tap it like that. They would do more of a touch and then release. So you can also change that.
I didn't know that it would work with a stick or a pencil.
But like, for example, like when I'm skiing and I try and use my phone with a glove, it doesn't work.
Is it because of the heat?
I'm not sure. Do you know why?
The original iPods, the dial wouldn't work. Either had to be a finger. I'd have to take my glove off.
I know he had something on the tip of the stick. I don't know what it is.
Because I don't think it'll work like with just like.
I don't think it's just a regular.
You have to just have a special stick.
Yeah, I don't know whether it was purchased separately, but it was a stick he was using. But it had a much softer tap to it than a regular. So I'm sure that he had something in the end that made it.
I'll show you a couple other communication ones. This one is TouchJack. I'm not entirely sure why it's good.
I want something, please.
Okay, so it's only using half the screen. Do you know why it's doing that? Maybe we'll show you a different one.
What you get for 99 cents?
No, this one is really good.
More than that.
This one's 150. So
that one actually comes in multiple versions, ranging from $100 to $300, depending what you get embedded in the program. So it has different word production abilities depending on which version you get. They have something called syntax word power, which does word prediction and sets up the communication device from more of a language perspective instead of what we call page-based, which is just grouping things in category on each page and then trying to embed things within the pages. So we'd have to hit home, and then we'd have to hit bedroom, and then we'd have to hit toys. Instead, with grammars, or what we call unity syntax compaction, that takes things and groups things within more of a syntactic environment instead of in a page-based format, if that makes any sense.
So, fixed it.
Can you adjust the level of sophistication of the word when you are talking with children, with young children?
Like synonyms, you mean, using different words, like synonym or?
These are all pretty programmable. Like you can change the words, you can change the categories.
Basic, yeah.
You can make a whole new screen, like choose a new vocab. We made this one for the AT. It's not very exciting. They just have one thing on it, but you can make a whole new setup. So it would take some time because you have to.
AP lab.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. So, but you can make it however you want, or you can edit the other ones too. So, and they do have different vocabs. Like we have a spelling one, the multi-chat, primary landscape. Just different ones that come programmed in, but they're all editable.
I know Proloquo has a picture dictionary of 4,000 picture vocabulary words. They're not all programmed in, but you can go in and program them in. And then you can import other photos if you want to.
This one is TouchJack. So they're all just like, most of the communication ones are like categories, and you can choose
Now.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, this one is tap speak, and maybe it will work. Martha. I don't know how to make it play Twinkle Twinkle. So sometimes I know what I'm doing. Okay, here we go. That'll work. Okay. So this one, you just touch the screen and it like play the song. And then you can go through and like do a whole song or a whole story. You can put pictures in. Like we just started making this list on wheelchairs, so just like Martha. That one's Martha.
Oh.
So like we just took our own pictures, put our own voice in there. You can make a whole story.
Oh, what program is that?
That one's really fun. And that one is called what's it called? Tap Speak. Tap Speak Sequence.
Yeah, we could use one of those.
And this one was $30.
There's another one that she'll show you called Pictello, which
I
is
can
set
show
up
that.
a lot more for making stories and sequencing through stories.
Sorry, we were editing something, but so we can like just choose a story. The Italian Vacation. This one's already programmed in, but then you can just
Italian Vacation.
And you can even put it on slideshow, and it'll just go through the slideshow.
Italian Vacation. Disaiblities in Italy.
So you can just there you go. So you can put your own voice in there, or you can just read it
No
out
one
on
will
the page.
recognize me.
The nice thing
Julia discovers gelato.
about this one is not only can you have it just sequence through the picture, but you can hot sync different portions of the picture to say specific things. So if someone wanted to tell you more about the picture, they could incorporate more into that specific picture.
So with that one there, can you capture the pictures on the device and do it like that?
Yep. What's cool about this is the camera can either work from the back or from the front.
Oh,
You
okay.
can switch it around.
You talked about facial recognition, on there you could assign, like, make it recognize a photo of a person, is that right? So that every time that came out?
So like on Facebook, if you tag a photo of somebody, it'll look for it or recognize it.
I don't know. Can it do that?
Yeah, it can do that, yeah.
I know they've got that technology embedded all through their application photo, and everything, so I'm willing to.
Well, I bet it's up there then,
Yeah. So that if you tagged your face in one picture.
Then whenever that.
Yeah, whenever it came up, it would say Martin.
Yeah, I know it's on the iPhone. I'm not sure whether it synchronizes with this app particularly, but it is available on the device itself.
So this is some communication devices. I'll show you this other one. This Digit Eyes.
Is that the one that magnifies?
No, that's eyeglasses.
Okay, because I'm curious about that one too.
Okay. So this one, all you do is you just can scan UPC symbols. And so when you scan it, then it will like read it, tell you what it is.
The Nature Valley one.
Yeah, I will. Hopefully this one will work. Sometimes it doesn't, but so there you go. It is okay. What happens is you push scan, and it will be telling you that it's working, and then it makes these little clicking noises, saying that it's looking for a UPC, and then when it finds one,
This needs to be connected to the.
yeah, it does need to be connected to the internet. But it told me it was Nature Valley Crunch Granola Bars, 12 pack.
Just right there.
Tell you that
Yeah, right
out
there.
loud.
No.
It will if you have
Oh.
it voice enabled,
I
yeah.
think every program should have 2 or 3 of those.
But I would imagine, Sachin, a program like that is really helpful to you as you're shopping, because then you can confirm that what you picked off the shelf is in fact what you have in your basket, or what you wanted.
They do have barcode scanners apps specially designed for the blind population, which is more accessible.
Can you scan my potato chips?
Let's try it.
Right, dangerous.
So now the VoiceOver thing is on, so it will tell you what it is. But
I think they said that it has a dictionary of what was it, 700,000 barcodes
Wow.
that it has in there, but then if it doesn't recognize, you can just sync with Google and it will look up that UPS and tell you. UPC.
So you don't have to be connected to the internet. No, it's not reading it. That's the problem. Sometimes it does.
Try like her, so on the side then. Is the flap kind of, where
Because
is
the
it
camera's
stands
right
one
here.
on the front? No.
Oh, they, yeah.
Well, she drink the right stuff.
So this one, like, I've actually not been impressed with it, but.
It's a little difficult to use.
But you can like print out ones, you can type stuff in and print it out, and then it will, and you can put it on something and it will tell you, like.
Digitize label read. This is a screwdriver.
So it can label a screwdriver or something. You wouldn't want to label a screwdriver probably, but something else.
Do that with books or something like
Yeah,
that?
you can do it with books. And this one.
Tab twice to cancel. Barcode read. Delve Y. See peach slices.
So that one was don't want peaches. So it is kind of cool. And it does, it reads it to me now because I have the VoiceOver on.
VoiceOver off.
I have a question. How user-friendly are they? It's like you can get it and get the apps, but then, you know, as far as the directions and stuff that it gives you, is that user-friendly or is it complicated?
It's taken me a while to figure out how to make everything work, but you can just go online and just search, and they usually like support things online. So that's where I found all of it. And some of them, which one was it that gave really good instructions just at the beginning? Like, I think it was the sound one. Like help. So it gave you all the instructions you need to write in the program of how to use it. So.
I think too, it's helpful if you're a Mac user a little bit that's used to even the laptop mouse pads are used to this. You can use this swipe technology and this expand and that type of stuff. And if you're used to doing that, I think it's a little bit easier to run this kind of stuff. But
it just takes a little bit of getting used to.
But they're simple.
Or if you're an iPhone user.
Yes, an iPhone user, huge. Yeah.
Most of the AT apps that comes are pretty self-explanatory. They're not that complicated. They don't. Most of the apps are not very complex. They're fairly straightforward. You know, does sort of what the task is. There are some that which are more expensive that can do a lot more. But there are very few of those out there. But it's very easy to learn.
Yeah, the basics were super easy. There were some of them like this one, I don't remember. There was one where in order to edit, you had to have it in landscape mode. And so like, I didn't know that, and so I was like trying to edit it and it wouldn't work. So that was frustrating, but I just had to look it up online, the support thing in a minute.
Your most complicated ones to learn are going to be your communication ones.
Lots of layers.
Because of the layers to them, right.
I think it's interesting, I think about AT of the past, or at least communication AT, and there was always a trade-off between portability with power, and they've totally nailed it. Now, if only they could add the third leg of the stool, which is, well, I don't know what you call it, but the toughness of the machine. I mean, durability. I think we all can see how an adult or even an aging parent could use things like this. But, a kid pitches that one time.
Because the screen is glass.
They do have these
These
cases you can get for iPads. I'm trying to think the name.
Yeah, I can't remember the name, but they've got
10 feet of bubble wrap.
the shock absorbent rubber is what they're made out of. And they work pretty well. That's what the old chat PCs were encased in, and I've seen those chucked across rooms and survive.
Yeah, it's pretty solid, those casing. It's a little bulkier, so it makes a unit a little bulkier. But if it's dropped, at this height, it's not going to damage it at all.
Of course, it's still cheaper paying $700 for a new iPad than
$6,000 for a DynaVox.
Exactly.
Which will break you faster.
And you can, and this can be upgraded as new applications become available.
Yeah.
So actually, I'm working with Amy and Rob to get one for Scott, for my son, and if they can make it durable enough for him, anybody can have one.
He's like the old Samsonite luggage.
I think that's called Auto Boxes. one of the cases.
That
is
sounds
pretty,
right. I don't remember.
Pretty good cases.
Do you want to see the eyeglass one?
Yeah, and we want to know how long the battery lasts.
We've been using it for like 3 or 4 hours this morning. It's on 41%.
Did you have it fully charged? I've had it go up to 10 hours before, depending what you're doing on it.
The one which I use, the last I charged was 3 days ago, and I've done quite a bit on it.
So it lasts
You
long
probably
time.
don't have to scream right all the time.
Sometimes. That does make a difference.
So this is the amplifier one. So you can go just 2 times, so you put something behind it. This makes it twice as big, or you can go up like 8 times as big,
Wow.
and that's like,
Can you shoot it this direction?
yeah.
I love that.
So
Oh my
like 6
gosh.
times.
My father needs that.
That's
Great
just.
for the Asian population here, right?
Yeah, it's just,
Wow.
it's like 2
That's
pages
amazing.
a minute.
That's amazing.
So you can go 2, 4, 6, or 8 times as big.
Mhm.
And it's just super, that's like, just super simple. And that one, how much is that one? That's only, I think that's 20. I don't know. Oh, right there, $3.
Mhm.
So.
And it was called eyeglasses?
Yeah, eyeglasses. Magnifies it really easy. And I really like.
You can actually read the label on the medicine bottle.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, really.
You want to even Sounds nice. And there's this really cool sound one, but you have to like plug in your headphones.
I can use this.
Will that work?
I'm afraid it'll feedback though, because it amplifies the sound, and if it double amplifies, it'll feedback, but we can try
We'll
it.
try it.
No.
It's on. There we go. Yeah, so it's giving some feedback.
A little hum.
But oh.
Yep, there you go.
So like when you talk, yeah, that's probably not gonna work. But
It works really well with headphones.
Yeah, with headphones, so you can change like so there's high and low. Down here's the low, and you can change like how much you have of each. So you can hear the background noise a lot, or you can hear the background noise like none, and you can change the overall volume. And you can do a zoom is like so like just one person like just right by you, or the landscape one where it's like larger noises you hear all the way around you. And you can record and then replay, and there's like a library on here, so you can just go listen to all the things that you've recorded. So you can like record class, or record what the doctor says, or record what your kids say, or whatever. You can record all these different things and then keep them. You can go back and listen to them.
It's like for hearing impaired folks, is that what it's for?
Yeah.
Does it have Bluetooth, will it do a wireless, can you do a wireless?
You can set it up that way. There's another app that you can get that's like $3, $4, and then you can hot sync. You can just sync your Bluetooth to the device. Yeah.
Wow.
And it even has like a link here where you can go online and ask questions. So that's cool.
Put that down. Yeah.
So this one's really nice. It gives you step-by-step instructions the whole way. I really like this one. But let's see. What other ones?
How much was that one, the audio one?
The audio one was $6.
And what was it called?
Sound Amp R.
Can you give that to your husband, Dylan?
You don't like the TV in that loud, do you?
And this is a really cool one. This is a schedule maker. It has like Asian pictures, but it's fun. So you can
Wake up.
So you can just put your whole schedule in there.
Bathroom.
So just what times you'll be doing things. You can add all these pictures. You can put your own pictures on there. Change the time around. You can move them. You can just delete this out of here.
Wait at a bus stop.
So it's really cool to make a whole little schedule. And you can make multiple schedules. You can choose which one you want to do. This one only has 2 in there, but so you have all these different schedules you can create.
And what's that called?
This one's Tasuc, Tasuc. Yeah.
There's a great website out there called autismepicenter.com, and what they've done is they've taken tons of these apps and they've reviewed them by a lot of professionals and they've got them ranked. So if you're interested in looking which ones are being used the most, which ones are being liked the most by professionals, it has a whole list of that for you on that website.
What's that website?
It's called autismepicenter.com. EPI. Yep.
Yeah, Sue, that would be, I mean, think about your population, and also TBI, and how cool for them to have, you know, a sexy looking.
I'm really thinking about my nephew had the brain tumors because from what we understand, everything works up here, you just can't spit it out most of the time.
Yeah, that's exactly what these are for. That's so good. Yeah, this is another communication one. It's called Tap to Talk. And this one is free, just the beginning part, but to customize it all, it's $100. And so this is just the free stuff. You have like choices.
Yes.
Or no.
No.
So this one's like just really, really basic things.
I got hurt. I feel sick.
So it has really basic ones. It has Spanish.
Pre-programmed excuses not to go to school.
Every kid wants it.
Some of these communication apps, you can change the pitch level so it suits the the user more. So you don't have an adult voice for a kid. So you can change all those kind of pitch settings.
The nice thing about this is you can put this app on multiple devices, and then logging on the internet, you can program it and then hot sync it to each device. What's nice about this is that this particular application can be put on a kid's Nintendo DS, onto a Super Nintendo, or whatever the kid wants. The Nintendo DS is really popular with this app. So
that's really cool about this. What other ones have I shown? Oh, this one, Scene Speak. You just choose a destination, like the bedroom, and you can. Oh,
I hate when he does that.
well, I'll start this way. Okay.
There.
So you can just.
Bed. Flower.
Just says the different things in the room, so they can choose their different settings, and like we did one with AT Lab, so don't ever know which way it's going.
Hammer.
So it just says what different things are. So.
There's a lot of great research for individuals with TBI and that have strokes using visual display for access, and DynaVox is selling those just for that little part of DynaVox. They're selling those to people for $7,000 when they're only using a fraction of what DynaVox can do, when you can set them up for $800 for what they do.
What's the price on that?
This one is $15. And they're all like, they're all so programmable. Like, take your own picture, put your own things in there, use your own voice.
Yeah, cool. So it's more individual where they can associate better
with their own environment.
Yeah.
Lois was just telling me about something at a training yesterday. Tell me, just told me about
We had
voice. This is interesting.
Scott Bagley from UCAP did a presentation for us online yesterday, and he was demonstrating an iPad, but then, what was that one you were saying that?
Proloquo?
Yeah.
Proloquo to go, yeah.
And anyway, in that, he was showing the different voices. He said, now I'm a big guy. He picked a voice called Ryan, and there was probably 8 different voices from a higher pitch to a lower pitch, and so you can customize them.
You would feel like you were you.
Yeah. So you have a voice that represents who you
And
are.
that's, but some of the devices that you buy that's had a couple, not too many options. A lot of kids hesitate using it because it's so not them at all.
Sounds like a parental authority figure.
Good. Do you want to show some things?
Yeah, I'll show some.
12:40.
Okay. In the blindness field, when iPods and iPhones and all start getting accessible, this was about 3 years ago, there was nothing available in the market to make a touch screen accessible for the blind. It was, that whole concept was, people had no idea what to do, because all the kiosk and everything was going touch screen. And Apple was the one company we approached, the National Federation of the Blind, to see if that's something they would be willing to undertake, mainly because the iPhone was becoming very popular. And before we realized, within the next version of the iPhone, they came up with the VoiceOver, which is the built-in screen reader, and is 100% accessible out of the box. With Windows, we use a program called JAWS, and it works 90% of the time. But the 10% of the time I had to reboot the computer. There's always issues with it. With this, I still haven't had a problem. It hasn't crashed on me so far, the screen reader. It's been stable. I've been using it for about 4 months. Can I use everything that's on the iPod? Pretty much everything that comes with the device. A lot of the third-party apps do work to some extent. There is accessibility issues in some of the third-party apps, but a good chunk of the apps out there do work with VoiceOver. So I'll kind of demonstrate a little bit about how VoiceOver works.
12, slide to unlock.
So
slide or double, slide to unlock. Contacts.
I can just run my finger on any of these icons.
Contact, calendar, photos, Bluetooth on, reference, folder, settings, utilities, shopping, weather, entertainment, folder, weather. Weather, Providence, high 68 degrees Fahrenheit, low, currently, currently, 57 degrees Fahrenheit. Thursday clear and sunny, high 68 degrees Fahrenheit, low 43 degrees Fahrenheit, home. Contacts.
Going into contacts.
Contacts, U.S., Bank, table index, adjust A, select B, C. Cache Valley Limousine, caller ride.
So it basically reads everything on the screen. I can, for typing emails, I do emails from my iPod. I'm not really fast because doing on touchscreen takes a little getting used to. But I have become a lot faster than 4 months ago in sending emails. I have sent emails from here.
Landscape.
It works really, really
home button
good.
to the left. Portrait. Home.
With the
Contacts.
iPhone,
Double tap to open.
It talked too much. With the iPhone, people use the GPS built in for navigation purposes. There's apps out there which is specifically designed for the blind population, where it gives you what's in the surroundings. Again, we're talking apps that just cost probably $10, $15 at the most. Some of the GPS apps are like $5. Whereas in the past, when I had to get a GPS app for my cell phone, was $300+. A lot of the apps available for the blind population is significantly cheaper. Let me show you one that I was talking about earlier.
1243, slide to unlock. Contact, radio station, utilities, folder, opening utilities folder, utilities, white units, white speed test, Shazam, money reader.
$100 bills.
Money reader.
It's called Money Reader. It's a bill identifier. So
$20.
That's all it takes.
Oh my word.
So I don't have to put it in a device. I don't have to scan or anything. Take a photograph of a lot of the other devices. That's the problem. You have to. Okay.
$1.
And you
So-
don't have to trust other people.
Trust or ask other people.
I know.
Yeah. So it is really, really fast. It responds really good. And again, this was just 99 cents. And anything that's close to this app, any device out there, is the cheapest I know out there is about $100.
Wow.
And all it does is recognize currency. So the flexibility you have with an iPod or an iPad or iPhone, you can do a lot more and then spend just $100 to do one thing. Another cool app I found the other day is I play guitar, and I finally found an accessible guitar tuner.
Low battery. 20% of
it's
battery remaining.
Completely
Screen
accessible
lock.
tuner. You can actually, it's not just for your
12:45.
guitar, it does also, you know, if you want to see whether you're singing on pitch and all those kind of things. It actually tells you, it gives you feedback on what, you know, what pitch you are at.
Slide to unlock. Money reader.
Richard, you want to give a shot?
No, no, no.
So,
Closing utilities folder. Mail.
the way you
Screen
use
lock.
the way you use the iPod, the iPad, everything is different when you use a VoiceOver. That's the program on here, because you don't just tap it once. You have to double tap almost everything.
Radio stations. Folder.
So
Double tap to open. News folder. Opening news folder.
I'm doing what they call split tap.
Closing news folder.
So there's a lot of different gestures. So the usability is slightly different. It's not the exact same someone who's sighted would use. So there's a learning curve in it. The best thing is I have access to apps that any of you guys would use. I can read millions of books that's out there through iBooks and Google Books, which was never a possibility before. You know, there's a lot of accessible audio books out there, but you know, we are talking a fraction amount of what's out there, which is accessible in the past. Now, immediate access to millions of content out there. Surfing the web on here, I do that quite a bit. It's fairly user-friendly.
How does that compare to using like JAWS on a PC?
A lot easier to learn. JAWS is a very complex software. It takes a lot more using. JAWS is a pretty powerful software. You can, I do have to tell you, every day I have to at least reboot once. You know, and that's how it works. That's the problem when you're having a third-party application that's built in, that's installed on top of an operating system, whereas you have an screen reader that's built into the device, which is designed to work with the device 100%.
And does it understand, like, I don't have all the language to ask this question correctly, but web accessibility, if you're doing it for a PC, you have to program for a screen reader. Does it require all the same programming using a?
You know, since iPad and iPods, they all are more mobile applications, so it looks for websites. When the website is loaded, it dumps down the website. It's not the whole content. So it's more of the mobile version of the website. So you do lose a lot of the things that is normally on the website, but you get information what you need to get out of it. So it's a lot more user-friendly for that reason. If there's a lot of graph in some of the website, when there's a lot of graph, it does take some of those off, and so you get everything you need. It's just not the exact same website. A lot of the website these days have the mobile version of their websites. That's what you get on here.
Even USU does. I know that when I've gone to grab the USU mobile version, 9 times out of 10 it doesn't have the information that I want, so I have to go back and load the full version, which takes forever.
And that's not, you know, that's not an Apple deal. That's just what the company decides to do, whichever website it is, what they decide to put on their website for their mobile versions. So. Same with Mac, all the Mac computers, VoiceOver, the same screen reader comes built in. In fact, if you buy a brand new Mac, the screen reader comes turned on, and you have to turn it off when you get the Mac. So Apple has taken a huge step in accessibility. Where, you know, in Windows had to pay almost $1,000 for a screen reading program. This comes with the device. Very, very powerful, equally powerful as the one that's available for Windows. You can do pretty much everything that you can do on the Windows system. You know, and now with all the new apps that's coming out, it's just made things a lot more easier for us to use. There's a lot of folks in the blind community that's using an iPad and not carrying a laptop around. They have a Bluetooth keyboard, use the Bluetooth keyboard for, you know, sending long emails and typing up documents. I use a Braille note. It's a note-taking device. I can use that as Bluetooth and just use that as my input for this iPad or my iPod and read things by Braille. And it all, there's no, one thing I have to say, Apple got what Microsoft used to brag about plug and play. They got that right with Apple. It really does work when they say plug and play. All I have to do is just sync it and immediately start works. With Windows, I had installed too many drivers, which works half the time. So,
Sachin, of course, JAWS is very, very powerful as a screen reader. Where are there places where you have to go back and rely on JAWS that Apple, with VoiceOver, they aren't supporting, they don't yet do? Because of course, even not just on the iPhone and the iPad, but even just on regular Apple-based computers, the screen reading functionality comes natively with the system. But I'm sure it's nowhere as fully functioned as JAWS. So where's the breakdown? Where do you start losing stuff?
When you start doing real powerful applications, when you start doing spreadsheets and those kind of products, Apple does have their version on the Mac. I think it's called Pages is what, I can't remember what's for the spreadsheet. From what I understand, the VoiceOver works really good on the Mac for the products developed by Apple. None of the third parties, like if I install Microsoft Office on Apple, it is not at all accessible.
Right.
Like I can't use it. So in that kind of situation,
so then you couldn't navigate by table headers or rows because it's not going to give up that information.
Yeah.
Because they don't play well in the sandbox together.
Yeah. So that's the biggest problem. If you're using an Apple product, then it's going to work 100%. Any third-party application on a Mac is not going to work with VoiceOver. That's where.
Whereas JAWS will work with anybody, no matter what, because they work hard to make sure that happens.
Yeah. So what a lot of people are doing these days is buying Apple and dual booting it with Windows and Apple, with the Mac OS. So they have an Apple computer, but they have both installed on there. So if they want to use Windows, they can switch to Windows. So the disability population is jumping ship from Dell products and are going to the.
Sachin, I have a question. Not that some of the political associations that you're affiliated with don't have a lot of power, because they do. But why do you think Apple heard you and other developers haven't?
Well, it started with the iTunes. A lot of colleges were starting to use iTunes to put their books out for the students to access, and it was not at all accessible. So we decided we'll sue them.
I also think there's a little history way back in the day, and I know this is going to date me. Back when Lisa was, one of those early Apple products, Alan Brightman, who's now at Yahoo, was one of the original accessibility developers at Apple, and they had screen reading technology in those early machines. And then when he left, there was no one to continue to do it, and they dropped that whole thing until lawsuits started popping up, and they remembered their roots and said, "We can do this."
The thing about the Apple, we sued them on the iTunes, but before it went any further, they said we'll make iTunes work, and we didn't even discuss anything about iPhone. They chose to make every single product that they released to be 100% accessible. You're talking iPad, Apple TV, anything. All those devices that Apple's releasing is 100% accessible. There's nothing else that they don't release that's not accessible.
Well, from a financial standpoint, it's a savvy business move. They're bringing over huge numbers of people.
Sure. So they've taken, and it's just not for the blind population. They're doing a lot with a lot of the other accessibility features. Windows has some built-in accessibility, but nobody uses it because it's, honestly, it's pathetic. They're built in. So that's kind of what we have. We just want to introduce, there's a lot of talk about the iPods and iPads, all the iOS devices. So we just kind of want to show what's out there. We just have a fraction of what's out there. Like I said, when I was at the ATIA conference, half the sessions were focused on only apps for iPads and iPods and iPhones. And that's where all the AT research is going towards to release software for that. Because people, it's cool to have an iPad. iPad.
Well, Bryce, I think you just need to say iPads for all.
There you go. That's all you need to say.
Just take them out of your own budget.
How much do they go for?
The cheapest is 500 for, you're talking the iPad?
Mm.
500 bucks for the cheapest one. You can go as high as 830 depending upon storage and 3G capability. Now you can get an iPod which does pretty much, for a in the blind population it really doesn't matter how big the screen is. So I use the iPod the most because I can do everything I can do on the iPod on the iPad on the iOS device mixed up. So yeah.
Sachin, what's happening with the other tablet devices that are coming online? I know they're a generation behind.
The Android is the other one that's out there, but accessibility is way behind. They haven't even considered accessibility. Like iPad came out last year, it was 100% accessible out of the box. Android, it has some free accessibility out there, but it's very, very limited.
And you can buy some, there are probably half a dozen screen readers you can buy for an Android phone. But the problem is because Android is kind of intended to be open source, everyone's not developing to the same rigid set of standards that the app that you would have to use if you're developing for Apple's apps. And things are getting really mixed up because, one set of developers will submit stuff to Android, and some of the screen readers will work with it, and some of them don't.
And like one of the companies that designed a screen reader for the Android, they decided to go a different route and create specialized apps to use, for the blind population, which is not something I want to do because I want to use which everyone else is using. So I need the software to work with the apps that's coming on the phone and with the other apps, not have a specialized apps for the blind population.
You don't like separate with but equal? What's the problem?
So that's kind of what we have. Any questions?
What about, there's so much of this stuff coming out now. Are there sites you can go to kind of help you point? I know with my phone, if I find apps, my friends will show me an app and say, well, look at this cool app, and that's how I find out about apps. It's like, is there a better way? Is there like a resource out there?
I know there's a lot of resources. Can't think of just for the apps for the blind. There's a website, and I just can't think of the name right now. But there are a lot of. Rob mentioned one earlier where they for the autism related. So there are a lot of resources out there. I just can't think of them right off. But it is phenomenal what
so maybe
available.
UATP needs to add to its website a listing of where people could go to find the best in disability AT for iOS. I think it cuts across a lot of the areas a lot of us are working, whether you're working with kids with disabilities, the aging, adults with either developmental disabilities or TBI. Boy, it's powerful stuff.
And and that's, just to throw this idea out there, if there's clients that you work with, and there's certain ideas that you have for certain apps, a certain app would be good. That's something we could talk about and partner with engineering or computer science, and because it's not too complex. You have kids creating apps for iPhones, so it's not very complex. So
crustaceans doing it.
So it's if you recognize certain areas, certain products that could be developed, let's talk and see whether we can bring people together.
Is there any way that we could get a copy of what you were going off of?
You sure can. I can give two away
Just put
right
it
now.
on the web.
Oh, yeah.
Or send it, I think, was Sharon or Julie, who had the final? The RSVP list. Sharon. If you send it to Sharon can send it out to us.
I will do that.
Thank you.
And I'm sure we'll be getting more apps as we like see needs.
Yeah, we've just had this for
so-
3 weeks now.
Yeah, not very long.
Wow.
So I think it would be good to just keep it on the website and we'll
We
just
found
update it.
6 more apps we liked today.
Yeah.
So.
This is really cool, you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I wonder if you need more people to help evaluate those apps.
Yeah, these downloaded to your iPad.
I'm always willing to help if I can find an iPad or something.
They have financial apps for those, I think, don't they?
That cost benefit app?
Thank you.